Brown, Seneca-Soshin, Elk, Talk 8, the TwoFold Gaze. The term twofold gaze has been given to a way of looking at the world by a famous 16th 17th century samurai warrior from Japan named Miyamoto Musashi. He was a great philosopher in addition to being one of the outstanding sportsmen of his time. And the twofold gaze, according to him, consists of perception and sight. So, what he says is perception is strong, whereas sight is weak. Thus, it is important to view distanced things as though they are close and take a distanced view of things that are close to us. So, we should have a real long term vision of what we want to become, what are the qualities that we would like to develop, skill sets that we would like to develop, and where we would want to lodge or become a real expert when it comes to a certain skill set or knowledge domain, so to speak. So that's what the twofold gaze is all about, because oftentimes we are so hung up with the little accolades, approbations, and approvals that people give us, and we seem to seek them out as well. And some of the very low grade examples are the material things. As an example, in one of my earliest jobs, I used to work with a number of designers, and these guys used to judge a man based on the car he drove, not judge him on what drove him from within. So one of the first questions what one of the guys asked me on the team was, what car did you drive? As soon as I took up this job, and in a day or two, when we became sort of acquainted with each other, that was his question. And fortunately or unfortunately, I drove a 20-year-old beat up Mazda 626, whose AC did not work. The fender was askew and almost falling off. So that was what I drove, and he saw it because we went out to lunch together, and he didn't remark anything after that. But the Mazda 626, the beat up Mazda 626, doesn't define me as a person. It is just a material thing that I used, and that's what I could afford back in the day. So that's very important, that we the twofold gaze, the wisdom that is encouched in the twofold gaze. And I would also like to bring up another interesting thing in machine learning, which kind of connects with this twofold gaze. You may have heard of the term CNN, not the TV channel, but convolutional neural network. It's a deep learning algorithm, and what it does is it looks at the data, whatever the stimuli might be, a picture, a video clip, or even language that is being uttered, and looks at the data in zeros and ones, obviously reduced to bits, as Claude Shannon said that everything in this world is made up of information, and looks at it hierarchically and develops a set of filters over a period of time as it does its machine learning. And why I say this is, oftentimes filters are imposed in our mind or in our head by the culture around us, and we develop prejudices. We have a filter as to who is our in-group, out-group, what are supposedly good qualities or bad qualities, and this is rather biased and not necessarily based on objective perception of what we see out there, but we put our culturally learned filters. So to develop this twofold gaze, it is important that we develop our own filters through deep deliberation and careful reflection on what we see, and also think back as to what kind of cultural values that were inculcated in us, and not that all cultural values are good. Every culture has its ups and downs. This might be a culture that is at a tribal level, community level, a group level, a company, or even a country. So there are these pluses and minuses, but it is very important for us to develop an independent thought. And what's so beautiful or good about this convolutional neural network, which by the way is modeled on how the human brain works when it comes to classifying visual stimuli or auditory stimuli, speech stimuli, uh, is what that we should probably relearn from it. The convolutional neural network in a machine learning or AI perspective, it is used to classify, I would say, stimuli that is somewhat dispassionate without any emotion to it. But those qualities are extremely important for us to take a long view, make our perception strong, look at things objectively, and place our priorities in the right way, and practice uh, to practice and strengthen the twofold gaze, so we develop the right kind of filters, and in fact develop a filter to filter out prejudices and biases that get hardwired in us from a very young age as a child. So that's the connection between Miyamoto Musashi's twofold gaze and the convolutional neural network, that we need to strengthen our perception. We need to focus on the distant things, because eventually they become important, and we need to take a distanced view of things that are close to us. Again, not to trivialize them, but at the same time not get too hung up on things like gain, loss, pain, pleasure, fame, disrepute, um, praise, blame, the so called evil winds in Eastern philosophy, which can bedevil us and stop us in our path and not get to that distance goal that we have in mind. Thank you and have a good day. Bye bye.